Summer of 2018, early summer, I decided to go solo to Yellowstone National Park. I had already been to Yosemite and Glacier with some friends, but I went solo to Yellowstone. They tell you not to hike by yourself at Yellowstone, especially in the spring. Anybody been to Yellowstone? Yeah. So I really wanted to visit the Lamar Valley region, northeast corner, because it is known to be just pristine and wild and open and lots of wildlife. So I left early to find the trailhead from my campsite, and on the way I actually stopped by a group of people with binoculars up onto the mountainside, and I got to see in a binocular a grizzly just cruise across the whole face of the mountain at lightning speed. It was very humbling after its cub. And then later on, I saw a similar situation in which a group of people invited me to look through binoculars at a wolf pack club, a wolf pack that had joined their dens together, and these little frisky cubs. And I finally made it to the trailhead, and there was just a couple cars there. I was a little shaky because I knew I was going to be by myself, but I figured I'd find someone to be hiking near, but I didn't find anyone. So I took off, and about an hour in, I'm in a woodland area. I'm following a wagon trail because there's apparently a ranch out there that's only accessible by wagon or horse. And the woods to my right started having some really weird sounds. I had never heard these sounds before in my life. And it dawned on me how alone I was in this wilderness with things that could do me harm. And then the stories that I'd heard about the fact that, several people a year get killed by buffalo and grizzlies, things like that. I finally got enough gumption to go investigate what the hell this was. And it was a pair of crazy-looking partridges that are mating. They were making some really weird sounds, but that was all right. So I kept going, and then finally I got to this huge clearing, and I just today looked on the Google map to find it again, to find that, and there it was, that big clearing. And it opened up vastly, and the wagon trail went across the field into this incredible landscape of snow-peaked mountains at the end. It was early spring, so there was still snowpack around. And there was this lone buffalo in the trail, about 100 yards ahead of me. And the woods went off to the right and opened vastly. And the wagon trail went that way. So they tell you don't go anywhere near buffalo. But I didn't know what to do. But luckily I saw that there's 2 or 3 people up there. There's two folks and someone up further beyond. I was like, okay, those people are up there. If something happens, I've got human presence. So I started making a lot of noise, hoping that the buffalo that was right on the path would move. And he looked at me and kind of pretended he didn't see me, and then he just moved off and grazed off to the right, to the left, as though I wasn't there. And I was like, oh, this is cool. But I was still nervous. I had my camera on and the video running. And I walked and kept going to the place where he was when he left the trail. I was like, okay, this is going to work. I can bring my heart rate down a little bit. And I turned off my phone, and I, for the first time, took my eyes off of the buffalo and thought I was fine. And as soon as I turned my head, I heard da-dum, 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 da-dum. And so I turned to the buffalo who's charging me full speed right on. So I should pause right now. I've been teaching Tai Chi in Lancaster for about 10 years and practicing it my whole life. I don't know why I did this. I had a huge can of bear spray, but I didn't even have the wherewithal. Adrenaline was flying through my head. So what to do with and what do you do with a charging buffalo? It's not a grizzly. So there's this move in Tai Chi, and I don't know why I did this, right? But it goes from, it's called single whip. It goes like this, right? And it goes into sweep hands like this, right? I did that in front of this buffalo. And I yelled at the top of my lungs, "What are you doing?" I mean, I didn't have anywhere to go. He was running full speed. If I ran, I knew he would just be like, a toro chasing the matador, right? And I just yelled at the buffalo. And about right where you are, Esther, is where he stopped. He just stopped, right? And we looked at each other. And I looked right into his eyes, and he was happy. He was, honest to God, he was so excited to play with this human who got to be his mouse. He was a cat and with a mouse. And I realized it was like one of the most humbling experiences to realize my life meant nothing. It really didn't. And I was taking my life fairly seriously, but I was his doll, and those horns were very sharp, right? What are you doing? So he lowers his head, grunts, and goes, "Whom, whum," and then paws the ground with his, and like, it's done. So I just yelled, "What are you doing?" I don't know what else to do, right? I was just, well, he actually put his right shoulder down on the ground, rolled down onto his back, wiggled like he was scratching himself, flipped over, jumped up off all fours, and took off down the valley. Right? I took off for cover. There was a rock pile. The graduate students, which I ended up spending the whole day with, they said they'd never seen anything like that in all their years of being at the park. Right? And so we got together, and the one graduate researcher who was down there saw Frisky went down the valley a little bit, turned around, looked back, and went, "I want more fun with my human," and started coming back. So we were all like making sure we're going to be on this other rock pile so that we could like chase around the rock pile so he wouldn't get us. And then he just got, and he was looking there, he was like so disappointed, and then he took off again. So that was the great escape from what we called Frisky the buffalo. We got to decide, we got to call it Frisky the buffalo. And Marianne heard that story once and told me I should say it, so